So, a couple of weeks ago, I made a video called The Nintendo Switch Virtual Console is Not Dead. And, yeah, that title hasn't exactly aged very well. But if you actually watched it, the point was that we'll certainly be getting classic games on the Switch in some form, but Nintendo is probably still weighing their options. And in a follow-up to Nintendo detailing their new online service, they mentioned that the Virtual Console will not be making a return. It is dead. And this has sent many people into a tailspin in terms of wondering how we might see classic games beyond the NES being made playable on the Switch. You know, where's Super Nintendo? Where's the N64? How about the GameCube? Are they going to be offered in a similar way to what Nintendo is doing with the NES games? Probably, honestly, but I'm sure nothing is set in stone yet. And I feel like a lot of people are forgetting about how many developments we're already seeing in terms of classics on the Switch. As I've mentioned, more and more Neo Geo games have been becoming available to purchase straight up on the system pretty much since launch day. Sega is doing that Sega Ages collection, which sounds like it will be sort of their own virtual console of sorts. They have a few of their classic titles set to release under this banner this summer, with plans to add more as time goes on. We have collections like Capcom's pumping out. Still this month, in May, they're releasing the Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 with Mega Man 1 through 6, the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 with 7 through 10, and the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which I'm not going to name each one again, but there are 12, I believe, different Street Fighter games included in that. So we've got different companies trying out various things right now in terms of distribution for their classic games. And I can promise you, anyone else looking to release their, quote, classic games on this system is going to be watching how all of these different types of situations play out. Like myself, the one series I always end up buying a bunch of the games from on every Nintendo Virtual Console so far is Castlevania. I love Castlevania, it's one of my favorite series, and I'm always a guaranteed sell on several Castlevania games for each iteration of the VC. I'd actually love if Konami got something similar going to what Capcom is doing, but for Castlevania. Give me a collection with like the original Castlevania through Symphony of the Night, get some Soten on there, and I'd be all over it. And from what we're hearing, I totally see more stuff like this becoming a possibility. But what about Nintendo? Obviously, their original games are the ones most people are concerned with. Well, this stuff does affect them too. Obviously in a different way, but as these other games continue to be made available, the pressure is on Nintendo with whatever they decide to do. Like, if they do decide to stick with the Nintendo Netflix idea, as we keep seeing developers take these different routes to release their games, Nintendo can't include them in their service. Well, they can, but they wouldn't be as big of a selling point when they're, available elsewhere, which would hopefully probably push Nintendo to really load it up. Again, if they still ended up going that route. If Nintendo does decide to keep pursuing this Netflix-type route and make available more classics from more of their systems, which they would probably also charge more for, I think it could totally work for them, but, they'd really have to nail it. The problem with Nintendo and something like this is you can't treat a subscription-type service like they did the Virtual Console where, you're getting, one or two games here and there randomly. Sometimes there's gaps of weeks between releases. You can't do that. You'd need a ton of games available every time one of these systems becomes included, if that's what you're going to do, like one system at a time, as well as keep the games flowing as time goes on. If they do that, one of the things I do see a lot of people discuss is, would they pull stuff from it? Would they swap games out? They could, but I think it would be dumb. It's definitely anti-consumer, and I think it would turn a lot of people off if they did it with their own catalog. Obviously, if they do bring third-party stuff into this, that stuff will surely swap in and out because, there's all the rights deals and stuff. But with their own stuff, there is no reason they'd have to do it, so it would just feel slimy if they did. It's like we keep saying Netflix, right? So Netflix, movies and TV shows, they come and they go, but Netflix's original programming always stays because there's no reason for them to take it off. Same with like HBO, with HBO Go and HBO Now, whatever. They're going to have movies swapping in and out as they play on the channel, but you're not going to see them like pull down Game of Thrones for a couple months. But let's not forget they could still do both, a service as well as allowing people to buy them individually. Just because the Virtual Console isn't coming doesn't mean there will be no way for you to buy classic Nintendo games. Sure, it seems less likely, but, obviously everyone is looking at Xbox Game Pass with these service-type programs for games, as Microsoft has gone full throttle with it. But all their classic games that are on that service, the Xbox 360 and the Xbox Originals, you can also buy separately if you don't want the service. So there is a precedent there. In terms of other methods of distribution, I don't think they do like collection type stuff. I would love that, a collection of high caliber Super Nintendo games on like a single cart for the Switch would be awesome, I think. There's also the HD route though, which surely we're going to be getting more remasters in that as time goes on. And any games you clean up, you're going to want to sell individually, not put them as part of this service probably. Zelda, I think, would be a great one. Tell me you wouldn't buy like an Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask HD 2-pack on the Switch. Give me that in a physical version. With Skyward Sword yet to receive any sort of remaster, I'm sure we'll see that game get touched up and probably released on the Switch eventually. Really, in my opinion, any game from the N64, GameCube, and Wii eras are prime for that sort of stuff, remasters. Any of you who follow me, the number one I want, the Metroid Prime Trilogy HD remaster. Hopefully at E3. I'm crossing my fingers for that one. So yeah, there are a lot of routes that all these companies, including Nintendo, are probably going to explore as time goes on. Now, I know many wish Nintendo would just tell us what's going on with the retro stuff, but as I've said, I don't think they're sure yet. Not saying that's an excuse, just that's what I think. They went back and forth with just how they were going to do the NES games alone, in terms of tying them to the online service, which itself was heavily delayed. It's annoying, but that's the way it is. However, this is a business, and money is the driving factor. Everyone is going to do what they think will bring them the most profit. Like, I know there's been a lot of debate since the info on this online service dropped about, Nintendo charging for it in general. But the fact is, they're doing it because they can, because it's going to make them a lot of money. Millions of players are going to pay up for this, just like they do for Sony and just like they do for Microsoft. It's as simple as that. In terms of what you can do to, influence how this stuff plays out, well, it's your money that is driving these decisions. As I always say, buy the games you like, in this case, in the form you like, and hope it's what other people do. But I can tell you right now, in terms of this retro stuff, these classics, none of this is set in stone. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the distribution of retro games on Nintendo Switch in the comments. I know a lot of you don't like the service idea. Maybe some of you do. But then, what do you like? Do you want the collections, which will probably come out to be cheaper per game? Do you want to buy them individually? Are you like me and you want everything physically? Let me know. As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.